Welcome to CivilNet. My guest today is Babken Der Grigorian. Welcome to CivilNet, Babken.
Hi Maria, thanks for having me.
I was thinking of ways to introduce you. You have several hats, but of the most important and prominent these days is that you're a social activist who seems to be getting arrested quite often.
Well, I think that says more about what the police are doing to try to block freedom of assembly in Armenia, and that it's just become really easy to get arrested, unfortunately.
Yeah. Babken, I mean, we didn't invite you here to talk about necessarily the fact that you keep getting arrested, but about a court case, one of your pending court cases that you just won actually last week, which is quite surprising because unfortunately in Armenia the justice system isn't always just, and to see the underdog in this case, if we could consider you to be that in the larger picture of things as an activist, you actually won the case. How did that come about? So
just to clarify, we not only did we win the case, as in the charge that the police had put on me was dropped, but also our countersuit, which is part of our strategy. We countersue.
Who's we?
We, the lawyers, all of us that have...
All of you that have been arrested.
Right. We countersue, saying that the police are obstructing our freedom of assembly and our freedom of expression. And in this case, not only was the cops' charge dropped, but also the countersuit was sustained and won.
And what does that mean, won? Does the police then have to compensate?
So the most important thing here is that the courts recognize that what the police did was unlawful. So just to backtrack and put this into context, over the last year, at least the last year, the police have found a new way to disperse any assembly or expression, starting with the 100 Dirham movement, but also during the protest against the customs union on the September 4th, Komitas 5, the December 2nd visit of Putin. What they do is they arrest people, hold them for 3 hours, and charge them with
something.
Well, it's always the same thing. It's always not following a cop's lawful orders, not following a policeman's lawful orders.
Which is stipulated in the penal code, in the criminal code.
182 of the administrative code. However, the first question that always comes up in court, by the judge actually, is, okay, what was the lawful order that was presented and not followed? Because by logic, if you're charged with not following a cop's lawful order, the cop has to first give you a lawful order, you have to not follow that lawful order, and then they can arrest you for not following the policeman's lawful order.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. You know, when I watch live streaming of the protests that are taking place, oftentimes we'll see the police officers, usually in a very polite manner, warning protesters, activists, you know, people who are taking part in a particular demonstration, and they will say, "Harkelis." Yeah, the respected one, I suppose, in English. You know, please don't do this, you know, according to this and that. Have you seen, I mean, it's interesting that you're saying that they use different methods now to arrest and disperse, by arresting. And yet, is there not an effort on behalf of the police to forewarn protesters?
I think there's an effort by the police to sound nice by saying hargelis, but in every single case where there have been these unlawful arrests, the first question we ask the cops is, please, Hargeli Baron Vostikan, please, Mr. Officer, present us the legal basis on which we are not allowed to do certain. So we try to speak to the cops in the language of the law. And because these are politically charged, I think that's important to note that all of these happen within a context of a very politically charged movement or assembly. When they're told to disperse us, it is not based on breaking a law, but it is a political order. So when we ask them to speak, when we try to speak to them in the language of the law, please present us the legal basis upon which we're not able to do something, they're not able to present us with that. And that is another thing that was always brought up in the court, is that, well, did you present them with any legal foundation for why they're not able to do a certain something? And the answer is no. So the cases are very tight in that way, and that's why I think we're getting the verdicts we're getting. So
what was, in particular, this particular case, where was its derivation?
So this was from a specific case on August 23rd in front of City Hall. There was a peaceful assembly. It was part of the sit-in. It was a peaceful assembly trying to bring attention to remove 2 individuals from office who were responsible for raising the transport fares. And I was sitting on the stairs of City Hall after hours, as in after working hours. In fact, it might have even been a Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. The way the police were operating during the sit-in was they were trying to not allow any assembly most of the time. So when we were sitting on the stairs, they removed us from the stairs, and the police, because that is not any basis for arresting us. The cops in their affidavit always wrote, or in my specific case, wrote that I was blocking street traffic when I was sitting on the stairs, and that they ordered me to move, and I told them I'm not going to move. However, we have video that shows that that was just not the case.
Right, because now we see the police always with their flip cameras, always videotaping. So you guys are also videotaping.
We're also videotaping.
And even if you weren't, I mean, with the media there, with social media, the way it operates, everything is basically on tape.
Yeah, and we always make a conscious effort to make sure that we have good video of everything that's happening, especially when there's an arrest.
You have 3 more cases pending against you. Which will probably come up in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
And to date, of the over 100 arrests from different events that took place toward the tail end of last year and some this year, I believe, how many activists or social activists have actually won their cases?
So far, I mean, they're going through the court system, and I think the court system is actually a little bit bogged down by a lot of this. So far, 4 verdicts have been given, or 5 verdicts have been given, rather. 4 victories, 1 defeat, which was going to, we're appealing that and moving forward with that. But I think throughout the next few months, we're going to see the results coming in of at least the first round of verdicts.
And is it because the court system, the justice system, is following sort of the role that is placed before it, or is it because you guys are working better, you have better lawyers, you're able to present solid evidence that is so glaring that they can't?
I think the police were not expecting this kind of response. And so
from the courts or from
the activists? They were not expecting us to enter court with a countersuit. They were not, so they think that they can disperse the immediate assembly, and by putting it on the charge, which they thought they would win, which is a 50,000 dirham fine if you're charged, they will prevent or discourage people from assembling in the future, just purely on economic level. And the fact that they haven't been able to get to that is bogging down the courts. Now, I think in the long term, this is good. This is actually a very positive thing, both for the police and for the justice system in Armenia. First of all, for the police, because little by little, we're forcing them to work within the law. And for the justice system, in that it's setting a precedence for, I mean, when this comes to the courts, they realize that it's just so obvious that they can't actually do anything other than, give us the victories.
Right. Just as a final question, last year during the sit-in at City Hall, you and another young man were beaten up by unknown assailants in the middle of the night. Well, as you were returning home from the sit-in. Where is that case now? Has anybody been charged?
That's actually, so in that case, I am identified as a victim, and that's a dead-end case.
Nobody has been charged?
Nobody's been charged. The investigators are dragging their feet. It's basically a dead-end case right now.
And Babken, just before we sign off today, with this new victory and with upcoming, hopefully, similar cases being won by the activists, does this give you hope to keep pushing the envelope, keep pushing issues, keep taking to the streets? Or why do you keep taking to the streets? I
think the important thing to note here is that when we're talking about rights, rights are never given, rights are demanded. And in every society in the world, whatever rights that exist is because a previous generation stood up and fought for those rights, and the next generation gets to benefit from that. In Armenia today, that's what we're doing. It's important to note that there are a number of international commitments that Armenia signed on to for these rights. So de jure, these rights are supposed to exist, but it's for the Armenian population, for the citizenry to stand up and demand those rights. And I think that's the important thing that we're doing here.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Very
you.
interesting, fascinating conversation. We'll be following to see how the other court cases resolve themselves in the coming weeks and months.
Great. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. I'd just like to remind my viewers that our guest today was Babken Der Grigorian, a social activist. Stay with CivilNet.